With the 2021-2022 NBA season coming up very soon, I decided now was as good of a time as any to start discussing every single team before the season starts. I decided it made the most sense to go in the order from the worst to the best teams in the NBA, kind of like my own predictions for this upcoming year. Right now I'm at the number 8 spot, and at the number 8 spot I have the Miami Heat, meaning I think the Miami Heat will be the 8th best team in the NBA this upcoming season. So in today's video, I'll basically just be discussing the Miami Heat, how good I think they will do this season, also discussing their off-season signings and their individual players, things like that. Before we get into the video, I ask you to drop a like on this video as it does help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. Also, if you want to reach my goal of 2,000 subscribers, also drop a comment on this video as I do respond to all of my comments, and play that intro.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
But quickly before we get into the video, I gotta show you this really quickly. This is the new diversion water bottle. It's basically a water bottle where you can put stuff like your keys, wallet, and other kind of small items like in your water bottle that will make you lose it way less. And it will also just help you to not have your pockets full and things like that. Click the link in my bio if you're interested, and into the video. To start the video off, I want to discuss the Miami Heat on the offensive side of the floor. If we're being honest, Miami has actually been surprisingly below average on offense the last 2 seasons, which kind of surprised me since they have a good amount of floor spacers, ball handlers, and passers. They also have a guy in Jimmy Butler who can be their go-to scorer, but I think this is the season where they finally become a good offense. I'm not saying they're going to go out there and be like a top 5 offense in the league or something, but I definitely can see them ranking somewhere around the 8 to like 8 at best, 15 at worst offense in the league. And this is mainly due to the fact that this offseason, I think they made some very smart free agency signings, as they got Kyle Lowry, an all-star level point guard, PJ Tucker, a good 3-point shooter and defender, as well as Victor Oladipo, a guy who can create his own shot, handle the ball, and space the floor. And I also just think guys like Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo will make some offensive improvements. But we definitely have to talk about Jimmy Butler, who had a really disappointing end to his season, as it was absolutely horrible against the Bucks in the first round. He got outscored by friggin' Bryn Forbes and stuff like that. I think he's coming out with this season with some absolute vengeance. I think he's gonna have one of the best seasons of his career, averaging around his normal 20 to 22 points per game, 5 or 6 assists with 6 rebounds. But I think Jimmy's just gonna play better this season. It may not look like he's playing way better box score wise, but I just think he's gonna play great. Maybe even be in MVP considerations. Definitely think Jimmy's gonna be great. Next, I want to talk about Kyle Lowry, who was actually one of the biggest signings in free agency this year. Even though Lowry is at an older age, I still believe that he's an all-star level player. He hasn't shown any major signs of falling off. Obviously, he's not as good as he was in 2018, 2017. He's still an all-star point guard right now and a top 10 point guard in the league, in my opinion. He's a very good playmaker, very good passer, a guy who can space the floor, and a guy who just knows how to play the game. I don't think he'll be an all-star this year, but he's definitely a huge upgrade over Goran Dragic or Kendrick Nunn. I definitely think he's going to help their offense out, because he's a guy who averaged nearly 9 assists when he was playing alongside Kawhi. And I think he's going to play that similar type of role, to be a guy who's not trying to go out there and score, but he's trying to go and get other guys involved. And Miami has plenty of guys who need to go and get involved in Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero, and Duncan Robinson, along with others. I just think Kyle Lowry is going to be really huge for this team's offense. I also feel like Bam Adebayo is going to take a huge leap this upcoming season to maybe even being the leading scorer on this team, because last season he averaged 18 points. I definitely see him jumping up to somewhere around 20 to 23 points per game, as well as grabbing his usual 10 to 12 rebounds while being a top 3 defender in the league. I think Bam is definitely going to make this team better on the offensive side of the floor. I think he's going to be way more confident in his mid-range jump shot. He was already starting to get more comfortable with it last season. In the playoffs, it kind of disappeared. He was reluctant to shoot them. I also think we're going to see him shoot a little bit more threes, because he has a beautiful jump shot. I definitely think he's a guy who could shoot them if he's wide open. But to answer the question, I definitely think he's going to be taking the step forward. I think he's going to be like one of the more improved players in the NBA, but I don't really see him being in contention for that award, if you know what I mean. But Bam definitely will be better this year, I guarantee it. Next, I want to talk about Tyler Hero, who for some reason everybody hates on him. I know Tyler kind of disappointed in his second season, but he actually wasn't terrible. He actually wasn't like even close to that at all. He was better than he was in his rookie season. He just didn't have as much hype, so it led to people thinking he got worse. He did make improvements, and yes, I know after the bubble, a lot of people are overrating him, and I included myself. But that's not really his fault. He didn't like affect that at all. He doesn't say anything crazy off the court. Honestly, I don't know why he's so hated, but I definitely think he's gonna take another right step in his direction this upcoming year. Whether or not he starts or not, I think he'll average somewhere around the 15 to 17 points per game. And if he comes off the bench, I think he'll be in contention for the 6th Man of the Year award. And if he starts, I think he'll just be a really solid start in the NBA. Honestly, I don't understand why this guy's hated so much. He doesn't really do anything. If you know why he's hated on so much, let me know. But I think Tyler's going to make the right steps this year. Next, I quickly want to discuss Victor Oladipo, who the Heat actually surprisingly re-signed. I didn't think they were actually going to be able to re-sign him. I thought he'd get somewhere around $10 to $50 million on another team, but he didn't, which shows how far he has fallen. Nonetheless, I don't think Oladipo's a bad player or anything like that. I don't think he's going to be how he was in Indiana, but I also don't think he's going to be some trash player. I see him as a guy who can space the floor out, occasionally create his own shot, create plays, playing solid defense. I don't think they really need him to be Indiana or Victor Oladipo. That'd be pretty amazing and perfect for them though. But nonetheless, I think he's going to be a guy who averages somewhere around 16 to 18 points. Hopefully he does it on decent enough efficiency, because he was absolutely terrible last season when it came to his efficiency. But I just hope Victor can bounce back, because he used to be one of my favorite players in the NBA. To quickly discuss some of the other players on this team, got to talk about PJ Tucker, who they signed this offseason. I think he's a very good player. A lot of people weren't really talking about this move. I was surprised he left the Bucks. Whether or not PJ is starting, he's definitely going to help this team out with his leadership. He perfectly fits this Miami Heat culture. He can also space the floor out, defend at a high level. Definitely a good signing. Want to talk about Duncan Robinson, who they signed to a pretty big contract. A lot of people were calling him like overrated and saying he was overpaid. He probably was a little bit overpaid, but he is a top 10 shooter in the NBA, and he's a big part of their offense, so they definitely had to re-sign him at any cost. Next, they have like Markeith Morris, can give them solid minutes. Max Struss is a guy who I've been looking at, because he looks like he could really shoot the ball. I think he's going to carve out a role for himself on this team. The only problem is they have a lot of guards. I guess we'll see. But nonetheless, I think the Heat will be a top 10 offense in the league, and I think they'll definitely be above average due to the fact that I think several players will have improved this upcoming year, and I think Lowry and PJ Tucker will help them out. When it comes to the defensive side of the floor, I think everyone knows how good Miami has been over the last few years. I don't think they got worse on defense at all this offseason. I actually think they got better defensively. Last season, they ranked 7th in defense, and that was with them having a bunch of injuries. This season, I actually expect them to be a top 5 defense in the NBA, at worst like around the 5 to 10 spot. This is a team just filled with so much versatile defenders, so much lengthy and strong guys who are very experienced on that side of the floor. They also have one of the best coaches in the NBA in Eric Spoelstra, who I think will make them a great defensive scheme and things like that. I think they have potential to maybe even be the best defensive team in the league. They literally have Bam Adebayo, who I think is the best defender in the whole NBA. They also have Jimmy Butler, who's a top 10 perimeter defender in the league. Lowry, who's very underrated on the defensive side of the floor. He does all the little things most players won't do. They also have PJ Tucker, one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. They do have 2 defensive liabilities in Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson, but I think overall their team defense makes up for it. I think this is a team that will be top 5 in defense, and I think that's the biggest reason they're going to excel so much this upcoming season. To answer the question of why the Miami Heat are ranked number 8 for me, I feel like the Heat are in the tier of teams that are dark horse contenders, meaning I don't think they're like real contenders. Like I don't think they're a team I would ever to predict to win the NBA championship, but I don't think it's impossible for them to surprise everyone and make it to like the finals like they did back in the bubble. I think this is a team that could maybe contend with the Milwaukee Bucks next season. I wouldn't predict it after what we saw last year in the playoffs, but I don't think it's crazy to think that now that they could defeat the Bucks now that they have Lowry. I don't think this is a team that could beat the Brooklyn Nets. I don't know if there's any team besides the Lakers that could beat the Brooklyn Nets, but nonetheless, I think the Heat will give both of those teams some troubles. I know they got swept by the Bucks, but I still think they can give them some trouble. I definitely think the Heat at best will finish as the 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference because they don't really seem like a great regular season team. They always step up their play in the postseason. They didn't do it last year, but you know what I mean. I'm talking about the bubble. I just hope they stay away from injuries and stuff like that. I think the Heat will have a really good year, and I think Lowry will be the center of their success. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. Let me know how good you think the Heat will be next season. Drop a like on this video to help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. Also, if you want to reach my goal of 2,000 subscribers, also drop a comment on this video as I do respond to all of my comments. And I'm out.